Welcome back to the channel. Your one and only Mad Dasher here, and today we're going to be reacting to a video posted by More Perfect Union. It is called How DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Are Robbing You. Let's get into it.
Ordering food delivery feels a lot more luxurious than it used to. Not because
I mean, so not to just deposit right away, but it absolutely is. The prices have gone astronomically high to the point where the only people that should, I'm going to say should, be ordering DoorDash right now, Uber Eats, Grubhub, whatever, are people that can afford it. Food delivery is no longer a convenience, it's a luxury. Whether you like that or not, that's the truth.
the food's gotten any better, or the experience, or anything really. It's just all gotten a lot more expensive. I put this order together on a delivery app, and it came out to $36 with tip. But I'm a consistent guy. I usually order the same thing.
So I don't really order DoorDash anymore, but the last time that I did order DoorDash, I ordered a three-topping pizza. I had a 30% discount because if you're a Platinum Dasher, every Monday you get a 30% off discount. The pizza, one pizza, now considering I did tip the driver well, because I believe you should tip your driver well. It's not their fault that the prices are astronomically high. They still need to make a wage, so I tipped them well. Nothing crazy. I think it was like $7 or $8 or something like that. It ended up being a $45 pizza. So I can confirm what he's saying is 100% accurate.
When I get Chinese food. So I went to my email and looked through some old receipts and saw that in 2019, the same exact order was only $19.27, $26 with inflation. We all know that ordering on the app has made things more expensive. But why? Look at all these fees. Service fee, okay, that makes sense. They're providing a service. Delivery. But then what's delivery fee? And this one irks me the most, the New York courier fee, which Uber defines as offsetting new minimum wage laws. Minimum wage laws that the companies that make these apps lobbied to kill. It's almost like they're hiding the real reasons costs are so inflated by blaming.
So that's one thing I talked about the other day too, is that the fees on the apps keep getting higher, but the amount that DoorDash and Uber Eats are paying the drivers are not getting higher. So the companies are getting paid more, but the drivers are not getting paid more. Why aren't those fees going towards the drivers? That's what I want to know.
Being forced to give their drivers living wages. The real culprits for making food delivery worse and more expensive are a handful of massive, billionaire-funded corporations.
And that is when it turns into the pile of shit. That is the final stage of enshittification.
And don't tell me I don't need to use these apps. Many restaurants no longer employ in-house delivery workers. And Uber and DoorDash have seized a duopoly on 96% of the on-demand food delivery service business. They've used that market power to convince us that we needed them to replace a system that was actually working just fine. That scam has made them immensely profitable. Uber's delivery business made $1.5 billion last year. That's a 173% increase from the year before. And DoorDash pulls in a ludicrous 49% margin on delivery. It's middleman capitalism, where a transaction that used to look like this,
I'm gonna order us some pizza.
From where?
From Sal's.
now looks like this. And food delivery is just one example of how billionaire middlemen are taking your money and giving you nothing in return.
That's 100% true, that they are taking money and not giving it into you return to the drivers. 100%. 100%. Not only that, but I understand that like pizza delivery used to be like that, but the fact that they went to a phone app just solidifies the fact that food delivery is not going anywhere. The fact that you can just literally just pick up your phone and press a couple buttons and get food. You don't even have to call the restaurant. You don't have to barely hear someone on the other line asking you what you want and awkwardly have to talk to someone on the phone. It's not going anywhere. People love it. People love being able to use their phone. It's convenience. Absolutely convenience.
Do you remember these ads from when the early iPhones came out?
If you want to check snow conditions on the mountain, there's an app for that. If you want to check how many calories are in your lunch, there's an app for that. Yep, there's an app for just about anything.
That catchy slogan symbolized a promise. Whatever you need, there's an app for it. The examples in the ad were for things that were handy to have a new tool for. And the transactions were simple. Either the apps cost $1 or a couple of bucks, other than the infamous I'm Rich app, which cost $1,000 and did nothing, or charged some subscription fee. But importantly, most of what the apps did just existed on your phone. Existing web retailers like Amazon slowly began introducing apps, but there weren't many apps that provided real-life services for money. Even up through the early 2000s, food delivery was still the domain of Chinese, pizza, and diners. Restaurants saw delivery as an extra table, like as if the delivery guy were just...
That is also true, that the only restaurants you used to be able to get delivery from, he's right, he 100% is right, the only restaurants you'd be able to get delivery from were like pizza, Chinese, and that's pretty much it. I don't really remember too many other restaurants you could get food from, let alone ordering something from like Home Depot or something like that. And the other thing is also is that where I grew up, no one would deliver to us. So even the closest Domino's, they wouldn't deliver more than 10 miles. If you lived more than 10 miles away from them, and you lived in some like excluded area in the woods or something, they wouldn't deliver to you. So I was never able to get delivery. My friends would always be able to get delivery, but I was never able to get delivery at my house until DoorDash. DoorDash literally opened up the avenues for people to get. I mean, you see Uber Eats tries to give you orders from like 30 miles away, which is ridiculous. But at the same time, you were never able to do that before. If it was too far, these companies wouldn't deliver to you. That's 100% true.
Just another waiter getting paid a wage plus tips. And a lot of restaurants didn't offer delivery because it simply wasn't economical. SeamlessWeb, a company that originally just placed large restaurant orders for workplaces, pivoted to individual customers and became seamless. And Grubhub launched with a bucket of venture capital money. These apps just connected users with the restaurant, who still used their own delivery guy. And Seamless and Grubhub charged the restaurants fees of 15 to 25% and let restaurants charge whatever they want for delivery. Restaurants were pretty happy with this deal because of the volume, so it made it worth it to have a full-time delivery guy. And customers were happy because they had access to a whole new range of restaurants.
That was back in the day when everybody benefited from this service. The restaurants benefited for it, the drivers benefited for it, the companies benefited for it, everybody benefited from this service. And then once you monopolize the service and basically scare out any other companies doing it themselves, I mean, who's gonna order from a restaurant on the phone when you could just press a button on an app, never talk to a single person, never see that person, never have to sign a piece of paper? Remember when the delivery drivers would come and you'd have to either give them cash, or you'd have to sign a little piece of paper, and it would be all awkward and stuff. Yeah, that sucked. Now you can just press it on your phone, you can pay on your phone, you can tip on your phone, you never have to see this person or talk to this person ever again. Once you monopolize something, that's when you start increasing the percentage that they take. 15 to 25% is no longer what these companies take. I'm pretty sure that these companies take like 50% now, and the restaurants are barely making anything from this, to be honest.
Restaurants. In 2008 and 2009, a few tech millionaires came together with an idea. An app that would let you order a fancy black car at the push of a button. They named it Uber. To understand the kind of guy behind this, the idea was allegedly inspired by Uber co-founder Garrett Camp spending $800 on a private car to go out on New Year's Eve and finding that far too expensive. To understand the kind of guy the other co-founder, Travis Kalanick, is, here's a clip of him talking about how great Camp is.
When you open up that app and you get that experience of like, I pushed a frickin' button and a car showed up, and now I'm a pimp. Garrett is the guy who invented that shit.
Kalanick's old
he's right. I mean, I would challenge anybody that's watching this to tell me he's not right. I mean, even it's the same concept of when you used to have to call and talk to somebody on the phone to order food. It's the same thing for a taxi. I used to hate calling taxis. You'd be in a restaurant and you'd need a taxi, or be in like an airport and need a taxi, and you'd have to like hail a taxi down or pick up your phone and call a taxi, and you'd have to like wait a certain amount of time because they're busy or they don't have enough cars. Uber, you literally open up your phone, hit a freaking button, and a car comes. He's not wrong. It works. Whether you like it or not, it works, and it's amazing. Plain and simple. That's my honest opinion about it.
Twitter avatar was the cover of Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged because he, quote, likes architecture. But everyone knows that's not what people read Ayn Rand for. That's like watching The Sopranos because you like pasta.
45 seconds, stir it up real nice.
At the same event as the pimp quote, about 2 years after the launch of Uber, Kalanick made their goal clear: to dominate and replace public and shared transportation.
Uber would not be where it is today if it weren't for a very special entity, the SFMTA.
That's the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency. Uber started as an SF exclusive, providing black cars that cost around 1.5 times a normal cab. In the next few years, Uber saw a ton of investment from venture capital funds and traditional investors. This huge influx of cash allowed them to do a simple trick: make Uber rides really cheap. Do you remember that, when an Uber was cheaper than a cab?
I do remember that, and I almost know where he's going with this, because that is no longer the price of Ubers. And the thing is it's just like Amazon, when Amazon first started, right? So Amazon made it so incredibly cheap to order anything, and it would get there super fast. I remember when Amazon came out, it was absolutely amazing. It was so cheap. It was so cheap and it was so fast that it literally pushed all delivery services out of the way. So many companies that tried to do delivery service went out of business. The only people that were able to compete were like UPS and stuff. But you can't really, UPS doesn't have the same capabilities as Amazon. Amazon, you go onto one website and you can literally order anything you want. And in most cases, you can get it in like one day because they have facilities everywhere. The whole point of that is when you make something too cheap, like he's saying here, the taxi's $14 and Uber's $9.50. Everyone in the world, everyone and their mother is going to be ordering an Uber and not a taxi because it's significantly cheaper. It's 2/3 the price. Once you do that, all the taxi companies are going to go out of business because they're not making any money. Once the taxi companies are out of business and there's no longer competition in your field, that's when Uber's going to put up the price and be like, hey, you know what? We're the only ones here. We're the only ones doing this. You can either pay more money or not get a ride. I mean, it's sneaky business, but that's how it works. That's absolutely how it works.
Cheap cars let Uber dominate the market. Drivers from small taxi companies started Ubering because it's where all the customers were, and at the time, the wages were good. Riders started defaulting to Uber rather than trying to hail a cab or even take public transit, and everyone had the app on their phone. Uber had seized the market, and they had their eyes on another market, food delivery, in 2014. But it doesn't make any business sense. The rides were cheaper than it possibly could cost to pay the drivers, cover other expenses, and still make a profit. How does any of this work?
Because it wasn't making a profit. These guys didn't care about the profit at first. That's why for years and years and years, you'd see Uber not making money. You'd see these companies not making money. DoorDash wasn't making money either. No one was making money. These guys are smart, though. They had all these venture capitalist investors and all these multi-millionaire, billionaire investors that knew what they were doing. They were happily giving them money, knowing that once they are once everything's monopolized, they will make money. They knew that this wasn't going to be making money, and they were well prepared for it. Scumballs.
What's the business model? Cory Doctorow has a word for it.
Shittification is a theory I came up with to describe how platforms decay.
By platform, he means web platform. But this goes beyond the internet into real life. It's a three-phase process.
Phase one, the platform is good to its end users. The users pile in, they get locked in.
Think of Google or Facebook, platforms that started off free and were actually pretty good tools. Tools that slowly became nearly mandatory in modern life.
Phase two, confident that those users are locked in and aren't going to go anywhere. It makes things worse for those end users, and it gives treats to business customers.
So for Facebook or Google, that's when you realize that since you weren't paying for anything, you were the product being sold. And they both gave you up to data collectors and advertisers, knowing full well you'd made the platforms an essential part of your life.
There's lots of different technical tricks to lock in users. Like if you're Uber, you can drive all the taxis out of business and cause disinvestment in public transit. If you're Amazon, you can lock people in by getting them to pre-commit to buying a year's worth of shipping in advance with Prime.
Then comes phase three.
Once those business customers are also...
I have had Prime ever since they released Prime, and I have never gotten rid of it. They have increased the price of Prime. They have done a lot of things to basically make it worse. I know that now Prime Video has ads when they initially said that they would never have ads, that it was just you would get it free when you have Prime. Well, now it has ads. One day delivery is like not a thing with a lot of items anymore unless you purchase a certain amount of money. I mean, that's what I was saying is once they get you, once they hook you, they can increase prices and do other sneaky tactics, and you're going to be stuck with that product no matter what. I'm 100% stuck with Prime. I'm never getting rid of Prime. It is I don't go shopping. I don't go to the mall. I hate the mall. I hate the mall. I hate window shopping. I mean, my girlfriend might like it, and I know some people might like it. I hate the crowds. I hate going in there. The prices in the mall are astronomically high. Things are so much cheaper to buy online. It's more convenient. You don't have to worry about it. They ship it to you sometimes in a day. Why would I ever get rid of it? Why would I can complain about the price increase, but I'm never going to get rid of it. That's facts. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments.
Also locked in, it takes away all that surplus and it gives it to itself.
Let's apply that to Uber. They made Uber easy to use, cheap, and readily available. Then started to pay drivers less and overwork them. And now they're finally starting to bring in money. At that time, the vast majority of food orders were still normal orders placed over the phone. Remember that? You'd call the actual pizzeria or Chinese place or whatever, and a guy who worked there would bring you your food. You'd pay him for the food, tip him, and no billionaire middleman was involved. It made sense. But the delivery companies decided to destroy that. Seamless and Grubhub told restaurants their menu prices had to be the same online and in store, so the restaurants couldn't make customers absorb the commission, but also making it so the customer thought delivery apps were cost effective, eliminating whatever competitive advantage that direct ordering had. Then they made a real mob-like move. They bought up domain names of restaurants they did business with so that those restaurants couldn't get their own business online, basically forcing any restaurant that wanted to get business via people Googling them to work with Grubhub.
I didn't know that. That is monstrous. That really is. Especially these mom and pop stores that like aren't tech savvy, but like could be in the future. If you buy out their domain name, man, that is sneaky. So then when you go to that restaurant's, like if you just find a restaurant, let's say Grandma's Pizza, and you Google Grandma's Pizza and it comes out with this this website and it shows you all the prices and stuff. You could even like manipulate the prices on the site too. Not only that, but like when you click on an item, it probably automatically routes you to whatever service bought that domain name. So if Grubhub bought it, it would automatically route you to Grubhub to order that food. That's crazy. That's got to be criminal. If it's not criminal, that has to be. That's crazy. I didn't know that. That's absolutely crazy.
Then came the new delivery thing, what we're really talking about here. Uber Eats and DoorDash. Grubhub was restaurants using their own drivers, but Uber Eats and DoorDash were something new. They had their own gig workers, contractors with no benefits, responsible for their own vehicles, fuel, insurance, going to the restaurants, picking up the orders, and delivering them to customers. And Uber Eats had the power of scale. Everyone had Uber on their phones already. And they just applied the strategy they did originally with cars, making everything impossibly cheap.
They had this surplus, right? They had a ton of money from the capital markets, and they gave it to us, people who wanted to eat dinner. They heavily discounted the food that we got. They paid the restaurants full price, but they charged us less than they were paying. Well, that's a pretty good deal, right? And if that's all they ever did, hell, I'm all for it, right? Let Peter Thiel buy me dinner every night from now until the end of time.
That's why they became so popular. That's what I'm saying. That's just not only did they make it cheaper, but like basically it's like they made it so enticing for you to order food delivery that you when you use something all the time because it's so awesome and convenient, by the time they make it not awesome and convenient, you're still gonna do it because it's so you're so used to it at that point. You're so used to people are like dogs sometimes. They're so easily trained and manipulated by these bigwig companies, and they do it when you don't even know that they're doing it. Maybe you do, who's watching this, if you're a gig worker or know the industry. But for the average person who doesn't look into this kind of stuff and doesn't think about it, they have no clue that they're doing this kind of stuff. They're just like, oh, inflation's making prices going higher. Like, they have no idea that like it originally started by them trying to get you hooked into the product. And every company does this. Every company.
You hooked, so when they raised prices, you'd keep using their service. Once they'd used their venture capital cash to gain market share, they jacked up prices. Now, most people go to Uber or DoorDash first if they want to order food, meaning restaurants are beholden to the apps too, otherwise no one will order from them. Uber charges restaurants huge fees to be listed on the app.
That's also true. That is a very good point too, is that when you go on, once, considering DoorDash and Uber are the two biggest ones there, when people think about ordering food, they immediately go to those apps. Those apps have a list of restaurants that you can choose from. If a restaurant is not working with DoorDash or Uber Eats, primarily DoorDash, if they're not working with DoorDash, their restaurant is not going to show up on that list in the app. And by default, that company's not going to get as much foot traffic. They're not going to get as much visibility because they're just not on the app. I mean, it's sad but true.
App, and it's a tiered service, so the more the restaurant pays, the better visibility they have on the app. Meaning when you search Thai food, the top results aren't the highest rated, closest, or anything like that. They're who pays the most. And Uber pushes this marketing service.
That's so scummy. I didn't know that either. I did always think it had to do with like your interests or like how far the restaurant was. That's so scummy. So like restaurants are just gonna like keep outbidding each other. Like what if they bid the same amount? Like what if like 8 companies bid the same amount? Like then how do you know like who's on top? That's so scummy. That shouldn't be legal. Although I can't say that because like there's so many other companies that do similar things. Like if you pay us a certain amount, you'll get better visibility. I mean, that's just how the world works. That's how advertisement works on YouTube and Google. If you pay more money, you can be an ad for this celebrity or whatever. Oh, this world is crazy, man.
Service on all of the restaurants. Meaning if every Thai restaurant buys the same tier, it becomes meaningless. They're all equal no matter how much they pay.
So they should all not pay a lot of money and they'd all still have the same tier.
The only entity that wins is Uber Eats.
Everybody gets screwed by the platform in the two-sided market.
And unlike Seamless and Grubhub, menu prices on Uber Eats are often higher in-app than direct from the restaurant, because Uber Eats encourages this to restaurants to offset fees. They openly recommend it. Generally, a middleman, like a distributor, only makes money once. They buy something and sell it to someone else for a profit. Uber Eats makes money off the restaurant and on the exorbitant fees they charge customers. I went through my email and found an old Seamless receipt from 2019. And I made the same exact order on Uber Eats, except the restaurant weirdly doesn't have chicken fried rice anymore, so I just got egg fried rice. Pre-chicken, if you will. It came out to 33% more than it did in 2019.
That's 5 years. Sometimes I don't think people realize how bad that is. 5 years. 5 years for 33% more. And it's not just ordering food online. That's grocery stores. I think it's more in grocery stores and things that like you actually need. Inflation has been so bad. Man, 33%. I mean, I don't see any other way. I don't see how it's possible that a recession's not going to happen, in all honesty. That's so bad. 33% in only 5 years. That's crazy.
And that's accounting for inflation. Then there's this story about a woman in Seattle getting a single coffee delivered for $25.
Dude, I say this in my videos all the time. I whenever I get like somebody ordering like a single coffee or like a single somebody ordered a single candle from Sephora and the candle was like $34 and I was getting paid like $15 and DoorDash was also getting their fees, so the candle was probably like $65-$70. And it was like a small candle. It wasn't like a big candle or anything. But like, dude, $26 for one medium coffee. You can't tell me that that's now more than convenience. It's more than convenience at that point. It's a luxury item. It's a luxury item to be able to buy from DoorDash. Can't tell me it's not. $26. I mean, I believe it. I see it all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of absurdity in that sentence, from the price to the very act of getting a single cup of coffee delivered. This especially bothered me because this was in an article alleging that the high fees were entirely due to new laws in Seattle ensuring delivery workers a fair wage. But it makes sense customers would blame the minimum wage. The delivery apps tell you to. Seattle customers, like New York customers, see regular.
Here's the thing, though. So what he just said is the absurdity of getting one item delivered. So what people don't understand, I think a lot of people don't understand, is that it doesn't matter how much food you're ordering. The amount of food, unless it's like, you know, three massive bags worth that you have to do multiple trips for, because you're going to be using more energy, but it doesn't matter if it's one coffee or 5 items from the restaurant. What matters is how far you're delivering that item from. I don't care if I have to deliver 1 coffee or 2 bags of groceries. What I care is how far am I going to drive? How much gas am I going to use? How much wear and tear on my car? And how long is it going to take me to bring from A to B? Doesn't matter how many. So when people are like, oh, I shouldn't have to pay so much because I'm only ordering a coffee. No, that's not. People have no idea what they're talking about. It's not about how much you're ordering. It's about how far you're ordering from. It's about the fact that you're ordering delivery in general. It's going to be the same base. It should be the same base pay regardless, unless, like I said, unless it's like an exorbitant amount of food, then the base pay should be higher. But the base pay should be the same based on how far you are going. How far you are going.
Regulatory fees for operating expenses, often explicitly blaming requirements put in place to guarantee a minimum hourly pay. The apps could just roll these costs into the existing fees and never tell us what it's for, but they want you to blame the wage laws. In Seattle, the $25 coffee article came during a debate to roll back minimum wage protections. That's a clear attempt by Uber and DoorDash to affect public opinion on the law. Imagine the app had an executive pay fee or a shareholder dividends fee, explaining the real reason you had to pay an extra $6 was to directly hand it to a venture capital billionaire who just really wanted it. I posted this line about the $25 coffee on Twitter without thinking too much about it, dunking on the customer for being upset about the price. It's an easy villain to paint, a lazy, privileged person complaining that the servant she hired to bring her a single coffee is making too much money. But she's not really the villain. In the greater class battle, she's on the same side as the driver against the venture capital billionaires. It's almost a meme, the guilt you feel when you order.
No, but that's what I'm saying, though. I don't agree with this point. Like, I don't think she's on the driver's side. I think that she's against the company, but I don't think she's on the driver's side. I think they just don't understand the concept. The concept is there is a person that is delivering their coffee with their own car, their own gas, their own time. How would anyone make money? I don't care if you're ordering one coffee. It should still cost the same amount as if you're ordering an entire meal. It's my time. If it takes me 15 minutes to get that coffee and to deliver it to you, I need to be paid 15 minutes worth of money. I don't care if I have to do 2 bags or 1 coffee. It's per time. It's 15 minutes of my time. Doesn't matter if it's 1 coffee. Doesn't matter. It's 15 minutes of my time. Otherwise, you would get up and do it yourself. Do it yourself.
Or Uber Eats when you see all the fees attached. But it's okay to want convenience. Corey was adamant about this after I joked about the $25 coffee on our call.
There's nothing wrong with wanting something that's more convenient, right? Like, I don't think it's a sin to not want to spend your money, and I don't think it's a sin to not want to have to work extra hard to get through your day. The problem is that there's like a false promise, and that false promise then uses investor capital to crowd out the actual viable systems.
People expect convenience today because Silicon Valley billionaires created a false promise of a more convenient world that is affordable. But really, they just set up a system to funnel more of your money to themselves.
Yeah, and this goes back to the original point that they initially say it's going to be more affordable, and then they jack up the prices. It's our fault, everyone's fault, every consumer's fault, for falling into the delusion that they would ever make something more convenient and cheaper. In the long run. More convenient and cheaper. That's what Amazon did. They've jacked up the prices. They've put ads on Prime Video. They've stopped making 1-day delivery unless you spend a certain amount of money. DoorDash did it. Uber did it. They all did it. And we're going to still do it because it's convenient. People are never going to think about the long-term effects. They're never going to think about the long game. They're always just going to think about what is happening right now and take advantage of the low prices. Who wouldn't? Even if you did say, oh, this is never going to last, you're still going to order from DoorDash if it's cheap. You're still going to order an Uber if it's cheap. You're still going to order Amazon if it's cheap and fast. There's literally nothing we could have done about this. And I agree with the other guys that there's nothing wrong with convenience. The only thing is you have to be able to afford it. If you live in the projects and you are struggling to get by to pay your rent or to feed your family, you should not order DoorDash. That might offend people, but that's true. You should not order DoorDash. DoorDash is a luxury. It is a convenience for you to be able to do it. Period.
Innovation is good, and it's okay to make money off of innovation. But what these people are doing is finding parts of everyday life that are working just fine and forcing themselves in as middlemen to transfer even greater wealth to themselves. They did it to dating. The rise of dating apps made it harder to meet people in person because the apps became the new status quo. And now most of these apps charge exorbitant fees to be useful at all. And they're doing it to healthcare. Like those bogus telehealth companies where the founders end up in prison. Or these networks that do nothing but...
I disagree with him saying that we didn't need it. Dating apps were needed. It was almost impossible for shy people to find where to go. Like if they didn't want to go to a bar, if they weren't into bar life, it was so hard for them to be able to find and to go out and find people. It's so much easier to read somebody's profile and to see if they are the same person as you and have the same likes. That was a needed service that was needed. I don't agree. And I also think that Uber is a needed service. I think that Prime is a needed service. I literally can't, I would never go back from not having Prime. That's my honest opinion. I've ordered so many things from Prime over the last 5 years or so. Like, I can't even tell you how. I don't think I've bought something in a store in like years, other than like food from the grocery store. It is absolutely a needed service. I don't agree with this.
Connect you to doctors to rip off you and your insurance provider, or this doctor in a box. Or streaming apps where access to content is easy, but prices keep going up and creator wages keep going down. Or meditation and prayer apps that are basically adding a middleman to you just sitting quietly and thinking. They want you to pay to access your own mind. We've built a supposedly utopian tech economy around the same issues that plagued all of previous industry.
The Apple II Plus went on shelves the year Ronald Reagan hit the campaign trail for his first presidential run, right? These are two factors that have grown up at the same time. So all of the policies that define neoliberalism, weak labor protection, weak antitrust protection, and so on, get more extreme as tech gets bigger. The capital markets did not open the sluice gates to funding them until it became clear that you can cheat the labor laws by saying it's not a labor violation, we did it with an app. You can cheat privacy and say it's not a privacy violation, we did it with an app. You can cheat consumer rights and say it's not a rip-off, it's not a bait and switch, we did it with an app.
And what are they really even providing? It comes down to two things: supposedly innovative technology and scale. But now that innovation is broadly available, anyone could build a simple app like Uber's or DoorDash's, so it's just about scale. It doesn't have to be this way. Without us, from which the venture capital billionaires derive value,
anyone else can build an app, but be honest. Are you going to use that app? No. No, not going to use that app. The reason I'm not going to use that app is because this app is going to struggle so hard. No, like all these DoorDash and Uber Eats already has all of the restaurants on their app. They already have all of the selection on their app. A new app is going to have to go to every single one of those restaurants and be like, hey, I know you already have DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub, but maybe you want to pick up a fourth one and pay us too? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're not going to want to add a fourth app to the already existing 3 monopolizing apps. And they're not going to want to have to deal with the headache. Also, people don't want to have to download another app on their phone. I hate having to download too many apps. I want one app to do what I want to do. I want one app for delivering food, one app for delivering packages, one app for bringing me a car. I don't want multiple apps. Yes, people can do it, but are they going to do it in reality? No. If I'm wrong, tell me. But I don't think I'm wrong.
they have nothing. Order directly from restaurants that will let you. Get pickup from the ones that won't. Support worker power movements like Los Deliveristas Unidos, the New York-based collective of delivery drivers working to seize back power from the venture capitalists.
I mean, I think that's cool. I think what these guys are doing are cool. But unless you have a group of people that are collectively trying to go against the grain like this, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think you could just build an app and have it be successful. Not unless you do what DoorDash and Uber Eats did when they first released it and made something so cheap that it literally was so enticing for people to do that they would use it. But then again, you can't do that unless you have millionaire investors that are investing in your company for years, losing money. You got to remember, again, they were losing money for years before they started making money. You have to have millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to be able to be invested in you to be able to make that work. These guys are G's. I mean, these guys are real ones right here. I hope they do well. I honestly do. I hope they do well.
Encourage the government to fight app monopolies like Lena Khan's FTC. And don't believe the apps when they try to turn us against each other. When you see a driver minimum wage fee, don't blame the driver. Blame the executives and venture capitalists whose fees show up nowhere on your receipt. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to support more journalism like this, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if there's another example of corporate greed or anything like that that you want us to take a look at, let us know in the comments.
This is a great video. You guys should give him a sub, give it a like. I thought it was a really great video. I thought it was perfectly done. I agreed with pretty much everything he said. There was a couple things that I thought were said more on the consumer side instead of like by the driver side. But overall, I agreed with most of these said, and I thought it was a great video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you guys like this video? Did you agree with what he was saying and where we are in the state of the economy and what these bigwigs have been doing? Yeah, I don't know. Mad Dasher out. I'll catch you in the next one.